Hello everyone. Welcome back to the YouTube channel of Uncle Ba Dewey's Ghost Stories. I hope you have a really exciting story listening session. Now let's start with the first story of today. The first short story today is about spiritual entanglements, and it is also a plea for help from a boyfriend. Currently, his girlfriend is suffering from a very serious spiritual entanglement that is affecting his life as well. This boy has a girlfriend, and the two of them are quite ordinary friends. But suddenly one day, his girlfriend started frequently dreaming about a man. In her dreams, she sees this man taking her out on dates, and they even go home to meet her parents. This is what the girl saw in her dreams. After many instances of such dreams, the boyfriend was told by his girlfriend, "Honey, this is happening to me." The girlfriend even added that after each night of dreaming like that, she feels very exhausted. Upon hearing this, the boyfriend already had some knowledge about spiritual entanglements. One morning, his girlfriend shared this story with him, and that night, he had a dream in which he saw this indistinct man, all black and unable to see his face. In his spirit, he sees the man pointing directly at him and saying, "I forbid you from being with that girl, Knock. She belongs to me." At that moment in the dream, the boyfriend was startled and jumped up to check the clock, which showed it was only 3:03 a.m. He felt frightened and stayed awake, unable to sleep, and ended up working on his laptop until morning. Realizing a connection between the shadow of this man and his girlfriend, the next morning he asked his girlfriend whether she encountered the man again in her dream. The girlfriend's response shocked him. She said, "Last night, I dreamed again, and the man warned me that if I still have feelings for you, he would break my neck." Hearing this made him a bit scared, but also somewhat amused, because for the first time in his life, he was in a scenario of fighting for his girlfriend against a ghost. After their conversation, he prepared charms for both of them to protect against the spirits so that the ghost would no longer follow them. Just a week after that, he continuously faced issues. At home, he fell down the stairs, and outside he saw people falling off their bikes, regardless of severity. He was unsure if it was due to his luck or if he had protective ancestors, as none of these incidents led to serious injuries, only scrapes. If he were like others, falling in such manners would surely lead to serious consequences. These troubles persisted until about 2 weeks ago, where both he and his girlfriend continually encountered the persistent spirit troubling them. The protection charm he created might have been too weak, and there were days he returned home from work feeling extremely exhausted. He messaged Knock asking if she still saw the spirit, to which she confirmed she still saw it return. After exchanging messages, he video called her and was alarmed to see how pale and lifeless she looked. Realizing that someone was deliberately stalking his girlfriend, he suggested they find a spiritual master to deal with the entanglement together. However, that night he faced an even scarier encounter when the spirit pressed down on him, not merely appearing in his dreams. He wasn't sure if it was the reflection in his room at night, but he clearly saw the shadow of a man weighing heavily upon him, leaving him unable to move. He could only mumble and realized he couldn't resist anymore, so he surrendered to whatever was happening. Eventually, after about 5 to 10 minutes, the man released him, allowing him to sit up. He opened the camera in his room and found his limbs not moving at all, as if they were completely stiff. After that night, he stayed awake until morning, and the following day he called his spiritual master for help. However, the master was far away and couldn't assist him, so he recounted his story to Duyan, hoping that anyone in the audience knowledgeable about spiritual entanglements could help him, because both he and his girlfriend were currently in distress from the spirit. For the second story, we move to a timeless issue, renting a room. This story was sent to Duway by a boy who had previously shared a shocking story about sorcery in Triton, and John that Duway just uploaded. Today is not about sorcery. It's a truly horrifying experience he had when he moved from the countryside to Saigon to rent a place for work. If I remember correctly, that day was January 29th, 2018. At that time, he asked his parents for permission to go up to Saigon to rent a room and find a job, to which they agreed. On the first day, he went with his parents to rent a room. But on the first day, They couldn't find a rental immediately, so all three rented a hotel as a temporary solution and planned to search for a room the next day. Eventually, they found a small room on Fansone Street. The room had a loft, and usually one could stand on the loft and look down, but this room was different because its loft was completely enclosed. After moving into the new house and buying all the necessary cooking utensils, his parents returned to the countryside, leaving him with his older brother. At the time, his older brother was still alive. The ghost story of Miss High. After her parents returned home, her older brother came to stay with her and slept in the attic while she slept downstairs because it had air conditioning. She also went up to look for a job, while her brother went there to learn the trade of hairdressing. People learn hair dyeing and perming, something like that. In general, this room where she and her brother stayed for a month was nothing wrong. However, 2 months later, while she was sleeping, she had a very strange dream. In her dream, she saw an old woman standing outside her room. This woman looked to be in her 50s or 60s. She was standing outside, but her upper body was inside the room. Everyone imagined this. The door was still closed, but her upper body leaned into the room, which meant she was standing through the door. When she looked at her, she saw the old woman sticking her head inside the room and sticking out her tongue very strangely. The old woman stretched out her tongue and licked all around her room, licking the door and the walls. In general, she licked the area near the door, and especially on the table near the door, there was a plate of cake that her brother had eaten, leaving only half of it. From that plate, she saw the old woman lick the book that her brother had finished eating. Suddenly, she woke up startled and terrified, wondering if it was a dream or reality. It was so creepy. At that time, she tried to reassure herself and didn't sleep immediately. She opened the scriptures on her phone since she always had the Great Compassion mantra and other teachings on her phone. She opened it to listen to forget her fear. The next morning, she told her brother, who said she was crazy, saying she was weak-hearted and only imagined it. He had stayed in that room and hadn't seen anything. At first, she thought it was just a dream, but the next night, she saw the woman again. That night, the woman didn't stand outside the door anymore, but she came straight into her room, bringing along a small child. In her instinct, she knew that this child was the woman's son. This little boy stood next to her. She described the scene as follows. The old woman was standing at the head of her bed, poking her head while asking, "Have you left yet? Have you gone somewhere else? Why do you keep staying in my house? Don't you know that my son can't sleep because you're here?" While she was speaking and poking her head, the little boy had climbed up on her, squeezing her throat already. "Oh my God," she thought. Just a few minutes passed, but then I woke up startled. My whole body was drenched in sweat, soaking the mattress. At that time, as soon as I went up to the attic, I saw my brother sitting there holding his phone, learning about colors to dye hair for people. When he saw her running up, he asked what was going on, saying why she didn't sleep. She told him about the terrifying dream she had. "Hey brother, I just had a nightmare. Let me sleep through the night, okay?" Her brother told her, "Oh dear, this man doesn't need to be afraid of anything. Just go to sleep downstairs. I still have to work and watch this for late at night. Go downstairs and sleep, dear." She reluctantly went downstairs to sleep, then turned on the Great Compassion mantra and listened. That night, nothing scary happened anymore. However, the next night turned frightening. That night, she also slept soundly, but suddenly felt something poking her side, as if someone was jabbing a stick into her. She felt shocked, opened her eyes, and saw an old woman next to her who looked to be about 80, and next to her were the mother and child of the woman from last night. This meant that today, the woman brought another old woman to scold her, but the difference was that she had already woken up and was not dreaming anymore. At this point, she was like she was paralyzed, unable to do anything. The old woman poked her with a stick, saying, "Have you given my grandchild's place back yet? Why have you been lying here for days? Don't you want to leave?" The younger woman remained standing, poking her head and taunting her over and over. The little boy continued to jump on her, squeezing her neck. At that moment, she felt like she couldn't hold it in anymore and began to pray, chanting the Buddha's name in her mouth. Then she heard the old woman say, "Are you chanting?" Continue chanting more loudly. She was writhing in desperation, hitting the bed desperately but couldn't scream. So her brother, who was upstairs, came down to ask what was going on, saying why she was sitting here and trembling. She couldn't answer immediately. Her mouth felt like it was frozen. It wasn't until about half an hour later that her mouth loosened up that she finally spoke. "Brother, today I saw the mother and child again, and they brought an old woman along. The old woman poked me and said I was occupying her grandchild's place." After she finished telling the story, her brother came down to sleep with her that night, saying he would sleep by her side. But he couldn't sleep. He turned on the lights for the whole house and stayed awake, watching over her until dawn. The next day at work, she told her colleagues what had happened, and they said, "What will you do now? You should go home. You bought a picture of Mr. Tiger and stuck it outside the door to see if you'd still see it. You brought it home, and indeed, you no longer saw it. After a while, you weren't scared anymore, but around July or August, every time you came home late around midnight and stood to open the gate to prepare to enter the house, you always heard footsteps behind you, as if someone was following you. You tried to hurry inside, but you could still hear this person running behind you. When you turned around, there was no one there, so you kept facing forward. It felt like someone was running behind you, as if they were preparing to fight. Once you got into the house, you told your brother about it. He said he already knew, but advised you not to mention it anymore. Whatever they were doing, let them be and don't bring them up again, as it seemed to attract them a lot. So, you called your mother, and she said she would come take you away the next day. Your mother came, and then the two of you went to find a new room rental. You thought moving to this new room would stop the misfortune, but the first night was fine, and on the second night, you encountered that kid and his mother again. That night, only the kid and his mother appeared. You didn't see the old lady, but you felt the woman standing over your head. The kid jumped on you and squeezed your neck, saying, "Oh, Uncle moved here, huh? Why did you move here? Who will play with me over there now?" Upon hearing that, you instinctively started chanting Buddha's name because you got used to encountering ghosts by now, knowing it was a spirit. So you chanted, and the kid replied, "Keep chanting. Chant louder. Keep chanting, or I will slap your face." At that moment, it felt as if heaven and earth were shaking. When you opened your eyes, you saw the two of them sitting right in front of you. It wasn't a dream. She was still standing over you, hitting your head repeatedly. After a while, you managed to get up, and she sat up forcefully, making it seem like your legs were broken and you couldn't stand. You cried out for your brother, and he rushed down. Only then could you stand. You climbed up to the attic, inviting your brother down to sleep with you because it was cooler there. So you both sat in the chair and fell asleep on the floor. You told your brother that you met the mother and child again. He replied, "Oh no, they are following you now. Tomorrow you have to tell Mom." The next morning, your brother called your mother and said, "Mom, it's happening like this. Is there any way to fix it?" He felt now that it was related to spirituality and you had to go to a master. Staying in that room forever was not possible. You could not sleep without seeing them, but they kept seeing you. Mom contacted someone named Uncle 2. He sent a friend request to your brother on Zalo. They talked, and Uncle 2 said someone is following you. So take a week off and go home, and I will take you to see a master. At that time, you were working a coffee shop and couldn't just take time off without asking. But that day, you asked the owner if you could take a week off. The owner said, "Wait a bit. I have to find someone to cover your position before you can take a break." You explained that you were experiencing spiritual issues, and she was really sympathetic. Upon hearing that, she told you to go home right away because this matter had to be dealt with completely, not prolonged. She also remarked that she would see someone to cover for you at the shop. After learning about your issues, she booked a bus ticket for you, handing you 500,000 VND to go back home. She booked a direct bus to Njong for you. After receiving the money, you thanked her because she was so kind. The day before you returned home, you slept a night in that room. The next morning, you left, and during the night, you didn't see anything unusual. After returning home, Uncle 2 took you to see a master. When entering the master's house, you noticed he was quite young, around 47 or 48 years old, because you just saw his name listed on the table. He checked and told you that you had some spirits following you because you had urinated on someone's grave, which made them angry. They wanted to cause trouble for you. Fortunately, Those who followed you were harmless because your ancestors were protecting you, omitting to frighten you only. Upon hearing this, you were confused, questioning when you had urinated on a grave. You reflected and remembered that on the first day you rented that first room, you had gone behind that row of houses and felt the need to relieve yourself. Even though there were houses around, it was just behind someone else's house. You recalled seeing 3 small mounds at that time. 2 were quite big while the smaller one was tiny. You thought those mounds were ground made for easier descent down some steps, never even considering that they were graves. So you went ahead and urinated there. After understanding the reason, the master asked one of his disciples to come in and possess the spirit so that he could communicate with it. This story about the ghost of Miss High tells us that Min is still very young. He just went out and sat there preparing for the spirit to enter his body. The teacher has not said anything at all when suddenly you hear Min changing his voice and saying, "Why did you invite me here?" Then you know the teacher has called that spirit to possess him. The teacher then said, "Okay, I know everything now. Don't disturb him anymore. He is still just a kid and still goes to work to support his mother back in the countryside. Don't disturb him. Do you all understand?" The female spirit then said, "I can't do that. I have to write for it. It is urinating on my child's grave, and it's even stepping on my head and my neck. I must make it die first. Oh my God, my child is about to break its bones because it's being stomped on. It's near breaking my child's bones. My child is in a lot of pain, very much pain." At that moment, you are sitting next to him and you hear that, so you know this flower is the mother of that baby, exactly the woman who has been standing at your bedside and hitting your head. After finishing that phrase, suddenly that person lunged at you and grabbed your neck like this. Grabbing hard, really hard, you screamed out loud. After you screamed, the teacher took the flexible cane and whipped it at Min, and the spirit exited. The teacher then said, "Now let me talk to this spirit and ask if they will accept the offerings." The person did not accept and said, "I will not accept." The teacher then relayed to that family, saying they do not accept the offerings. Then the teacher said, "Now I will try to speak one more time. If they do not agree, I will have to use a strong method." After the teacher just said that, the spirit entered Min again, saying, "You use a strong method. Do what you want to see if you can succeed." When this flower just finished speaking, the teacher pulled up your back and drew talisman symbols on it, drawing those sacred words. You all know that the sacred words of Thailand are pointed and drawn down like that, drawing about 4 to 5 circles, similar to a ritual. After finishing the drawing, the teacher said, "Okay, let's go home." Just as you stepped out of the teacher's house, the teacher slammed the door shut. You don't know what he did inside, but you feel very scared even later on when you're living in a rented room anywhere. You no longer encounter the spirits of those women and children again, and you're still not sure if they have left or if they are still around you. But to this day, you are still very haunted by it because you told the story to Dewey. Dewey told your story, and then you decided to recount this story too. When telling it again, you still feel very scared. Next are the stories of those who have the gift or those who have the ability to let spirits possess their bodies, which Dewey relayed from his sister in Kinjuak, Long, and who only mentioned that when she was 12, her father was a sorcerer and her mother danced with golden and silver trays, performing rituals. Her mother often danced at temples to worship for others. Since her parents were involved in spiritual work, her mother was very easily possessed by her late uncle's spirit. Her uncle had been sick and passed away very early. Each time her uncle possessed her mother would talk to her father as if it were normal. Over time, her father also became possessed too, so much so that they got used to it. Her mother was possessed by her uncle's spirit, while her father was possessed by some other uncle's spirit unknown to her. Whenever her father was possessed, he would eat 4 bowls of rice. And even after 1 pot of rice, he still wouldn't be full. While he wasn't full, he would scold her mother. That was her father being possessed. As for her mother, every time her uncle's spirit would possess her, she had to go down to the sandy bank by the river to bury herself under the mud there. Oh, that time she cried like crazy, begging her uncle not to enter her mother anymore. Her uncle's spirit responded, saying that before her mother was possessed, it felt like her mother was asleep. And then she would hear someone call her name. Then she would naturally be possessed. Since her parents were frequently possessed, she eventually got used to it and would talk normally. By the time she was 22, her parents converted to Protestantism and no longer engaged in sorcery. After that, she focused on work, study, and renting a place in Govap. On many occasions while taking a nap, she would find her body stiff, as if frozen, and couldn't speak or move at all for about a minute before sitting up and realizing her body was drenched in sweat. Then, at night, lying down asleep, it felt like someone was using 2 hands to rub her feet. She felt very ticklish even though she wasn't sleeping. She found it puzzling, and she was possessed again. Every time it happened, she would be scared, so she turned on the light and stayed awake the whole night. The next day, she noticed her window was open even though she had closed it before sleeping. In her purse, she saw a face pushing through her window. It was the face of a woman, pale as chalk with dark, sunken eyes. It was terrifying. The next day, she moved away and no longer lived in that area. She also recounted a rather short story about a child who drowned behind the elementary school near her house. There was a primary school next door, and behind it was a very deep ditch. This story goes back to 1990 when a first grader went out to play near the ditch and fell in, drowning. When the teacher searched and couldn't find the child, the students rushed and found the child dead. When discovered, Mrs. Nam, who sold snacks at the school, went down to fetch the child up. When the child's parents found out, everyone fainted, and they brought the child home, leaving the body outside before burying it the next day. Because the child was still small, they only said it was a child, yet that person, until now, has already been 30 years old. How old was the girl after she was buried for a few days? It started in this school. Around 12 o'clock, people started hearing the sound of drums, like someone was playing drums boom boom. Ms. Nam, who sold snacks, went out to check because she also slept in the canteen in this school. When she went out, she saw the drum was still beating, and looking at the drum, these children were sitting on the drum. Oh my God, she almost wet herself. So she went inside her house, closed the door, and went to sleep. There were many times when the children from grades 1, 2, 3, and 4 were often studying, and they saw that child keep walking back and forth in the classroom. It was just haunting, but didn't do anything. When hearing about many people being haunted like that, the school administration also bought offerings for the girl, but it only lasted a few days. After that, almost every night the girl came back to beat the school drum, and the most haunting thing was the sound of the drum at midnight. Oh my God, this girl kept coming back to sit on the drum, holding the drumstick, beating it loud, waking everyone up. A rather short story told by a girl from Longin. In general, today Due has a few things to do, so the duration of our story in this episode is a bit short. Due will make up for it in the next episode. Our story ends here. Before concluding the story, don't forget to like and subscribe to this YouTube channel to help Due. And if you think the story is like this, you can leave a comment below for everyone to know. Now let's say goodbye here. Everyone, let's wait for the next interesting stories. Goodbye, everyone. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the YouTube channel of Ghost Stories, Uncle Ba Due. I hope everyone has a very exciting time listening to spooky stories. Before listening to these ghost stories, don't forget to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel to help Due. Thank you very much. Today, we will share 2 very interesting stories from a girl from Ajong. And now, let's move on to the first story of hers. This story is titled, The Spirit of the Chinese Girl at Yemtown. This story is related to the piece of land at your house in Ajong. You said you were of Chinese descent, or also known as Bak Tao Lai, which is what you said because your grandparents fled from the war. They came from China with the Eastern Shandong group, and then immigrated to Vietnam. After your grandparents settled in Vietnam, your parents got married and had you. You mentioned that when you were 7 years old, you were aware that was in 2001. In front of your house, there was a big mango tree and a very large cotton tree. You heard your father tell about the past, that your grandmother built a pigsty there to raise pigs, and next to the pigsty, she built a house for your parents to live in and take care of the garden back then. At that time, there were very few houses in your area, and there was only one deserted house far away, with not many people passing by. A few days later, your father heard the women who often went to the local market gossiping. They said the cotton tree near your house was funny because every time they went to the night market, they saw a ghost that climbed with its feet up to the sky, while its head was stuck in the ground, crawling from under the cotton tree all the way to the top of the tree. Your dad described that this cotton tree was very large, so large that 4 strong men could barely hug it. When hearing the gossip about the cotton tree next to their home, your dad was very upset because he had never seen this ghost before and wondered why those women could see it. So the next night, your dad went outside to the cotton tree and fell asleep there to guard and see if he could catch a glimpse of that ghost girl. Indeed, that night, your dad saw the ghost. While he was sleeping, he opened his eyes and turned to the base of the tree and saw the ghost girl crawling from under the cotton tree upwards, but climbing up with her feet first while her head was down. The story of the earth which goes like this, and she climbs backward. She climbs straight up to the top of the tree. At this time, her father was lying down. He noticed and observed that when she climbed up the top of the tree, she stood up there and laughed heartily. And she shouted, speaking a long string in Chinese, not in Vietnamese. And she kept climbing up and down. Each time she climbed up like that, she would speak in Chinese. Her father counted about 5 times. Then he got annoyed and stood at the base of the cotton tree. He urinated right there. When he just peed, he said, "Hey, you come here. You scare people to frighten them. Let's see. Today I will urinate on your head to see if you can still climb up and scare people." So, that whole night, your father did not see this girl climbing up and down anymore. When he didn't see her return, he thought it was over. A week later, your father went out to that house to sleep. In fact, it was just a hut to keep pigs. Next to it was a pigsty. Sleeping outside that night, your father saw this female demon. This girl sat next to him and asked, "Do you see me, pretty?" He had previously drunk wine when he urinated at the base of the tree, so he was not afraid. However, this time he had no alcohol in him, so he was a bit uneasy. When your father was about to say anything, she said, "Now do you want to live or do you want to die? Why did you urinate on my house? Where did you come from to be here? Do you know how long I've been here? Do you know how many hundreds of years I am? How dare you do that to me? Today I will twist your neck and choke you to death." But that night, this girl only warned him and laughed heartily, leaving without doing anything to your father. He was so scared that he went home. Until a few years later, your parents started moving out there to live because they thought it had been several years and keep wondering whether this girl would still come out to scare them. However, this girl was still there. At the time your family moved there, the toilet was not inside the house. They had to go outside to the back of the garden to be able to use the restroom. That night, you also went to the restroom. You were still small, about 7 or 8 years old. You were walking to the toilet when you heard something fall, like a heavy object that fell from the roof. Next to that spot was a cotton tree. You turned back to look and saw a very beautiful girl. This girl was wearing a qipao, the traditional dress of the Chinese people. This girl was mumbling something in a language. In the mouth, you couldn't hear clearly. You also stared at her and saw her. She turned her back and disappeared, not saying anything to you. You left this story until the next morning to tell your father. After stringing together the events from last night, you realized this girl was like several years ago when people circulated rumors about a female ghost next to your house. Your father then decided to ask a master to check if there was anything wrong with your land. When a master came, he said that your land used to have a Chinese family living there. He also mentioned that this Chinese family used to operate a business and then migrated to Vietnam, becoming very wealthy. Therefore, they had so much wealth that they feared being robbed, which is why the homeowner used ancient Chinese magic to protect the wealth in this house, preventing anyone from touching it. They sealed the land with a virgin girl. When hearing this, your family knew something was wrong because this land already had the spirit of that girl. Currently, it is still unknown whether this girl is still present or not. Then your father asked the master if there was any way to release this girl or to help her transcend, rather than let her stay here forever. Your father hoped the master could help exorcise this girl. The master then said, "All right, let me prepare some items and call her up to see if she agrees to be reincarnated or not. That night, on April 26, 2001, your father and the master set up offerings and held a ceremony for the master to call the spirit of that girl. After the master successfully summoned that girl and spoke with her, he told your father that this girl had lived for over 100 years. Her family had lived here for a very long time. Her father was very wealthy to the point that everyone knew him. However, despite his wealth, he was very stingy, selfish, and greedy. Therefore, he used his youngest daughter, that girl, to seal this land, keeping out any strangers who might touch his wealth. Additionally, the girl's father had used some type of ancient Chinese magic to seal the girl under this cottonwood tree. Now, after being buried alive for over 100 years, she still cannot transcend. She is bound, and she said to the master, "I want people to discover and find me. Just take this talisman off me. I don't want to harm anyone." Her only wish is to relieve this talisman and to be liberated. It's been several hundred years. However, the master added, because she has been subdued for too long, her soul has now become a ghost. She told the master that in the past, when she was buried, she was placed in a standing position, bound, and in her mouth, she held 3 gold coins and a talisman. She asked the master to find her body and burn all those talismans so that she might be liberated. Not stopping there, she requested the master to find 4 jars buried with 4 black cats, and in each jar were gold coins. We need to find those 4 jars to remove this chain, the invisible chain that has bound her for hundreds of years, turning her into a fierce ghost in this land. She said her father was too cruel because he had sealed her spirit. He also sealed the 4 corners around her with 4 jars containing black cats, preventing her from escaping to be reincarnated, which is why she has been lingering in that land for a long time. After she finished explaining, she also told the master that her name was True Lu Tan, and she died at the age of 18. She also expressed her desire that people would offer prayers for her to be exhumed and to break this sealing talisman so she could escape and be reincarnated. She didn't want to be a fierce ghost anymore. Not only that, she said that in the middle of the land where you live, her father had buried a bunch of golden bananas, a tray of areca, nuts in gold, and a pair of ivory tusks in gold, which were very valuable. She said that if your family could dig it up and help her find the 4 jars with the black cats, she would gift your family those golden items. Surely your family would be very rich. However, at that moment, your father told her that he didn't need wealth or gold. He just hoped to find her, to break that talisman, and to let her be liberated. He was happy with that. She shouldn't cause trouble anymore. She frightened his grandchildren all the time. Everyone was scared of her. Nevertheless, in the end, everything did not go as everyone wished because your father and the master could only dig up her body but could not find the 4 jars at the 4 corners where the black cats and the gold coins were buried. They were hard to find. Meanwhile, the plot of land, this story of the ghost woman, is too vast to find. And indeed, when her corpse was lifted, it had 3 gold coins and a charm in her mouth, showing the exact location of her grave beneath the gnarled tree, making it easy for people to find. Once it was dug up, no one dared to approach the coffin because it looked very ancient and frightening. After bringing her up, the monks said to take her to your land to bury her, and your family also worships this spirit according to her wishes. Everyone thought that after excavating her, she had reincarnated, but in reality, there were still many more terrifying events that happened in your home. A short time later, the daughter from the neighboring house, named Tam, suddenly committed suicide by hanging herself, even though no one was sad about it. She wasn't heartbroken or anything. However, after Tam hanged herself, no one could see the ghost of that girl, Tan, who was Chinese, anymore. A while later, Tam's parents came over to your house to tell your father that the female ghost named Tan had returned and claimed Tam's soul, causing her to hang herself as a sacrifice for her. During that time, your family also worshipped the ancestors profusely, which is why they didn't see the ghost of that girl anymore since that day when Ms. Tam from next door hanged herself. No one saw that girl named Tan anymore. She was the ghost who haunted from the gnarled tree. When people no longer saw Tawn, they began to be haunted by Tam, as if the other girl had left while Tam remained. That incident happened in 2004. You were out playing at night to watch a performance with some friends. On your way back, you saw a girl in front of you dressed in a traditional outfit. You couldn't clearly see her face, but as you walked alone, you felt relieved to see her, thinking someone was with you. As you didn't see her face, only her back with long hair and her traditional dress flowing in front, you ran up to her and asked, "Excuse me, can you walk back with me? Because I'm very afraid of ghosts." The girl then asked where you were going at this time, and you replied, "I was out playing and watching music at my school." She asked if you were afraid of ghosts, and you said, "Not really, because why would they bother me? Why be afraid at all?" Suddenly that old lady said, "Do you know who I am? I am Sister Tam, daughter of Mrs. Tam, who lives next door to you." Oh my God! You just turned around and saw her face. You said her two fangs were long, and her face was as white as paper. And her eye sockets were deep without any eyes, just black pits. You ran home as if your life depended on it. Since that day, your parents didn't let you go out at night anymore. Since the night you were scared by Sister Tam on the way home. All the kids in your neighborhood were also scared by her. She didn't spare anyone. Every night, she came back to knock on doors to take the kids out to play, kind of like putting them in a sleepwalking state and then taking them out to play. The peak was that day you were sleeping in your house. And this thing came right into your room, knocking on the door and calling you with the same voice as your mother. You thought it was your mother and said, "Oh my God, is Mom knocking on my door? How come she's usually so calm?" You wondered why she was knocking on the door as if it wasn't locked. As soon as you finished that sentence, you heard a voice outside say, "It's me. I am Sister Tam, daughter of Mrs. Tam next door. Where's Mom? Is she out playing with me?" After hearing that, you sat in your room frozen, unable to do anything, as if your body was paralyzed. You just knew to recite the Buddha's name in your mind because you remembered your mom said, every time you met her, just recite the Buddha's name, and she would leave. You tried to sit there and recite for a while, and then you no longer heard Sister Tam's voice. At that point, you weren't sleeping, but you were sweating profusely. You were so scared that you grabbed your pillow and went outside to the altar in the middle of the house to sleep, not daring to sleep in your room anymore. In general, being haunted so much made everyone in the neighborhood know about this lady regularly causing trouble. It was like the story of Uncle Sal in your neighborhood. That day, he was sitting in the bathroom, holding a toothbrush, scrubbing the floor. His bathroom had a drainage pipe at the back, just enough for a hand to fit through. That afternoon, while he was cleaning his bathroom, he suddenly saw a whole hand sticking out of the drain. He noticed that this hand was big, like a bunch of bananas. You know what a Buddha hand fruit looks like? It was big and hard, just like a Buddha hand fruit. Uncle Sal saw that hand sticking out and immediately knew it was Tam. This story of the ghost girl is about her scaring us. And he didn't even have a chance. He was holding the broomstick in the house. He just hit his hand with it once, and she immediately pulled her hand back, screaming loudly, and then she disappeared. So the very next day, Tom's sister came back to tell her mother, who is Mrs. Tam, next to their friend's house. She told her mother that she went over and told Mr. Sal, saying that old man, about yesterday. I saw her sitting there mopping the floor. I was just going to tease her a bit. She took the stick and hit my hand, and now it's broken. Tell her to come over to my house to burn incense and ask for forgiveness. Otherwise, I will kill her. Tom's mother woke up and went over to Mr. Sal's house and asked, "Did she come back and scare you yesterday? Why did she come back last night and tell me exactly the same thing?" Her husband didn't believe her, saying she was messing with him and that he would hit her. "Next time she scares me again, I'll take a knife and chop her hand off rather than just hitting her hard enough to break it. Am I scared of her or what?" And also, he didn't do any rituals or ask for forgiveness because he knew that Sister Tom always scared people. That same day, Mr. Sal was sitting at home when suddenly the light bulb went out. He thought he'd get a tall chair to fix that light. He thought it might be a burnt bulb or a short circuit. Reflexively, he told his daughter to take a flashlight and stand underneath to shine it up for him while he climbed the ladder to fix the light. Just as he was adjusting the ladder, he saw Tom standing below, next to his daughter, pushing the ladder. He fell with a loud crash. While he was falling, he heard a ringing in his ears, and Tom said, "Is it you? You broke my hand, you disrespectful one. I pushed you so you'd fall and break your leg too." But actually, he climbed too high on the ladder and fell, breaking his leg. Therefore, even to this day, they say Uncle Sal still limps, because he broke his leg in that incident. In the past, around midnight, the ghost would appear, and now it's like this. The incident of Mr. Sal breaking his leg became even more rampant with the children in the neighborhood. They only go out to play in the late evening, and when they come back home, they get severe fevers. Every time they get a fever and go to Tom's house to perform rituals and ask for forgiveness, she ends up curing their fever. If anyone forgets or doesn't know to come for the ritual, they end up sick to death. Like the boy at the end of the street, whose parents went to work far away, and he was home alone. He used to play a lot. He went out to play until no one made offerings to apologize for the female ghost's fever. Now, that little boy has lost his younger brother and has been crazy ever since. When he saw the chaos, the adults in your neighborhood pooled their money together to hire a car to go down to SOC train, because they heard there was a very skilled teacher down there who could help this girl. When the teacher arrived in this neighborhood, he said, "All right, at midnight, I will come out and do it." That night, the clock struck exactly midnight, and the teacher, along with Tom's family, set up the offerings in front of the yard to call Tom's soul back and ask her some questions. That night, the whole neighborhood knew about it. You wanted to go over there to see. By that time, you were already 16 years old. When you asked to go, your mother said no, warning you that if the soul came back, it would cause trouble. But you still sneaked over because you were very curious. While you were hiding, you saw Tom's spirit appear clearly in the night. Meanwhile, the teacher was performing the ritual. You saw Tom enter through the door and go straight into the house wearing a dress with purple flowers, what people usually call purple blouse. When Tom got inside, she looked around and asked her parents, "Why are you guys still awake at this hour? Why don't you go home and sleep?" People in the neighborhood were curious and gathered to watch. At that point, the teacher had already caught Tom's soul and asked her why she died by hanging. Tom replied, "That girl Tan, the one from the Chinese community who died here a long time ago, came back and forced me to hang myself to take her place. Now she's gone on to reincarnate, but I'm still here." The teacher asked why she had to die that way, saying it was ungrateful to her parents and that she shouldn't disrupt the village like that without reincarnating. Tom said she didn't want to reincarnate at all. "I died and came back to cause trouble for them, because this neighborhood is full of gossip. When I died, they spread rumors that I was pregnant and slept with a guy. That's why I hung myself. They said terrible things about me, so I came back to bother them. At that time, your father was there too, and he asked, 'But my child didn't bother you or speak ill of you. Why did you scare her?' Tom then replied, 'I loved her when I was alive. I just followed it and played with it. I didn't harm it, so why did you say that? Your father just said, 'If you love it, then let it go. Why are you scaring me by following it?'" With this momentum, Sister Tam then spoke to your father and said about you, "This little girl here, if she lives past 18, she'll be very rich. Her fortune is good, and there are grandparents to support her. But if she doesn't live past 18, she will die young." When you heard that, you were very scared, right? Because you're already 16 years old, only 2 more years left. When everything is settled, the teacher asked if you would go or wait for the north. Then this sister said one last sentence. "You don't need to exorcise me or catch me. I won't go anywhere because my fate doesn't allow me to reincarnate. I'll be struck by lightning. I'll self-eliminate. You don't need to do anything." When the teacher heard this, he understood and clicked his fingers, knowing where this spirit was headed. Therefore, he didn't manage this spirit at all. From then on, indeed after 2 years, on that day, in the hot summer noon, the sunlight was blazing. Suddenly the black clouds rolled in, changing into rain. Everyone in the neighborhood was scared. No one dared to go out because it was sunny, and if it rained heavily, the weather could be very severe. Thunder and lightning could happen suddenly. So everyone hid inside their houses when they heard a loud thunderclap. It turned out that the lightning struck directly on top of Mrs. Tam's house, the mother of Sister Tam, right next to your house. After the lightning struck, everyone saw the roof of Sister Tam's house had a huge hole in it. From then on, no one in the neighborhood saw Sister Tam come back to disturb them anymore. And everyone knew for sure that she had been destroyed by heaven. She was struck by lightning and died. In summary, the spirit of the Chinese girl named True Luton had been replaced by the spirit of Sister Tam, and so that girl was able to reincarnate after several hundred years, even though the 4 jars buried with 4 black cats had not yet been found. As for Sister Tam's spirit, she was very unfortunate. She was incited to hang herself to death, so now she can no longer transcend. After that, she was completely erased. This friend also has a very interesting story related to a wig and the story of hair extensions that Duwei will tell in the next episode. Now, our story has come to an end. Before finishing the story, don't forget to like and subscribe to this YouTube channel to support Duwei. And if you think the story is like that, you can leave a comment below for everyone to know. Now let's wait for the next really interesting tale together.